Awesome. Okay, so we'll get started. Hi, everyone. Thank you for attending our first part of the SCU Parent Webinar Series. This session is on what to expect this summer as your student transitions to SCU. We ask that you stay muted. If you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat during the presentation, and then we will answer them during Q&A or maybe answer during the presentation. So we do see those coming in. If some of them were able to answer directly in the chat too, if not, we will also wait until the Q&A. So to start off with introductions with myself first, and then I can introduce the rest of the team. So hi, everyone. My name is Dr. Lori Salazar. I'm the Associate Director at the Center for Student Involvement, and I have been with the CSI team and at Santa Clara going on my 6th academic year.
Hi, everyone. My name is Andres Elvira. I'm the Senior Assistant Director for New Student and Parent Programs here with the Center for Student Involvement. So super excited to spend some time virtually with y'all to learn a little bit more about what to expect this summer at orientation. Welcome.
Great. Hi, everyone. My name is Liv Capola. I am a NOTA intern for this summer at Santa Clara University, originally from the University of Georgia. So happy to be here and help y'all out with this orientation season.
And hey, everyone, I'm Stephen Ponce. I'm the Director of Parent and Family Communication and Engagement in our brand new Parent and Family Office. So I am your direct point of contact throughout the academic year, and I am supporting Andres and his team during orientation. So look forward to meeting all of you in person.
So here's our overview for today. We'll be going over the in-person parent orientation schedule, and then our in-person student orientation schedule, followed by the additional webinars that we have in the series. And then, staying connected, also have Q&A at the end. So any questions that you all have. We also got questions that were submitted beforehand, so we'll try to make sure we're covering those areas during the presentation. But again, feel free to put any questions in the chat and we'll get to those during Q&A.
Alrighty, so I'll go ahead and kick us off here. I know we've been getting lots of questions on what folks can expect for the orientation experience this summer. We are really excited to be able to return to an in-person modality for the first time since pre-COVID. So many of you all will be able to get to experience this return to in-person programming, and something that I know our community is really excited and looking forward to. But with that being said, we wanted to quickly cover an overview of what you all can expect to experience when you're attending the parent and family orientation component that runs concurrently with the student program. So it will be a 2-day experience for you all. Thankfully, you will not have to spend the night in the residence halls on campus, which I'm sure many of you all would love to experience something like that. But as you can see here on the screen, we do cover kind of a brief overview of what you can expect for those 2 days. We will kick off the mornings pretty early at 7:30 in the morning. So just something to note as you're making your way and planning your travel to campus is that we will be having check-in from 7:30 to 8:30 before we officially kick off the programming on each day at around 8:30 in the morning. So do plan for that. I know for many folks that are planning to drive to campus, we are hoping to update our webpage on our website with our parking permit information once that's available. So thank you to you all for reaching out and letting us know about that change. But as you can see, we do have a pretty jam-packed schedule of things that you'll get to experience and learn about, like student life, our diversity, equity, inclusion, learning a little bit more about the academic experience as well. So essentially what your student will be experiencing as a student, and the types of curriculum that they'll get to experience as a student here, as well as get to connect with a variety of different departments on campus at our resource fair. and really just get a feel for what campus is like. One thing that we do want to mention is that there will be an opportunity to actually visit the space that your student will be staying in on campus. So getting to meet the professional live-on staff that will be serving your student and getting to see the actual space that they'll be living in the fall, as well as an optional parent and family reception that'll be wrapping up the first day of orientation. So pretty jam-packed schedule for y'all, lots of things to experience, lots of folks that are really excited to meet with you all. And then for day 2, that will be kicking off again at 7:30 in the morning. And then there will be some presentation rotations that you'll get to learn a little bit more about our campus billing, our access office, which includes our student ID, our auxiliary services, bookstore, as well as some of our wellness and mental health resources as well. So a lot of information that's packed into those 2 days of programming. And then we are hoping to wrap up the program by around 1 o'clock as well. So the checkout process for your student will look a little different than yours, since they'll have other steps to complete. And we'll actually be registering for their classes on that day. So also something to note as folks are planning departure times and when they need to be back or catch a flight back home. So we'll be sharing this schedule on our website soon as well. And then folks will also get a personalized name tag when they show up to check in. That'll have more of a detailed schedule that you can reference throughout the day. So don't worry if you aren't screenshotting or taking pictures of this schedule, we'll have some available for y'all when you arrive for your session this summer. All right. So the student schedule mirrors some parts of the parent schedule. So there are sessions where you'll be attending together with your student, and there will also be opportunities for your student to split off and get to connect with a small group of other new students that are also attending Santa Clara in the fall. One of the really unique components of having an in-person orientation is getting the opportunity to connect with our orientation leaders, which are our student leaders that are hired through our office and have been training since, believe it or not, our spring quarter, preparing for your students' arrival and your arrival to campus, and equipping them with all the information and knowledge to share with our students, as well as to be able to provide that current student perspective as well from folks that have been at Santa Clara, can help your student navigate their experience and their transition here. So that is a really great component that your student will get to have multiple checkpoints with their orientation leader, as well as having a small group of students to connect with throughout the 2 days of orientation. But similarly to your student, they will also have the opportunity to have a tour of the residence hall that they will be attending and living in this year. In addition, they'll also be learning about a variety of different campus resources that many of you all will have the opportunity to learn about during your sessions as well. In addition, one thing that I want to highlight is that towards the end of the evening for students, we do have some fun social activities planned for them to encourage them to connect with other students in their class and to kind of help them wind down the night after a long, busy day of sessions and workshops and presentations. So your student will have stuff to do in the evening. There will be activities to keep them busy. But we are really encouraging students to make sure that they're getting their full night's rest, and because there is a pretty jam-packed day for the second day, which will be the time that your student will get to register for their course schedule for the fall quarter. So really, really important that your student is attending all components of orientation. There will be points in the day where your student will be asked to check in with their orientation leader to be marked as present for being there. So if at any point your student does not attend or skips a session, that may impact their ability to register for their classes on the second day. So really could appreciate y'all's support and help in reminding our students to fully engage and participate with us during the full 2-day experience, so that they are able to walk away at the end of the program with a full course schedule for the fall and ready to go and jump right in. So that's essentially a brief overview of the two schedules for the programs and for students. I know that there are a couple questions in the chat that we'll go ahead and address and respond to individually, but we will be sharing these detailed schedules on our website shortly, and then your student can also expect to get a more detailed schedule once they arrive at check-in on day one.
Awesome. So thank you, Andres, for reviewing that. And also just to see what else we are offering for our webinar series. This is the first one. So after this, we will have later on this afternoon, what to expect my student in the College of Arts and Sciences. We have some about residential learning communities, undergraduate experience. We also have a parent webinar session in Spanish, campus safety, parking and emergency planning, student well-being and wellness, and the Career Center. And so a variety of different webinars. If you can't attend all of them, that's okay. We will also be uploading them on to our Center for Student Involvement YouTube channel. In a bit, I will put that in the chat so you all have that. So any recordings will be uploaded onto there. Also, when coming in-person orientation, a lot of these resources will also be at the resource fair during day one and lunch and part of the rotations. I know one of the questions in the chat was if you're unable to attend day two. So if you're unable to attend day two, some of them are presenting during the webinar series, but then we'll also be attending the resource fair on day one. So make sure you stop by and get any materials that are needed.
So we are jumping a little bit all over the place, just because, again, this was a webinar intended to prepare you all for what the summer entails and what needs to be completed by your student and everything in between. So a few questions came up during the registration component where y'all asked what students need to do before they get to campus and before they start their journey at SCU. So in the Bronco Family Network, which is how y'all registered for this webinar, I posted in the orientation hub a whole checklist that contains both of these slides that I'm about to show you. But this is just everything that your student needs to do to be completely onboarded and ready for their first day of classes. As you can see on this first slide, a lot of these due dates were at the end of June, though some might have been soft deadlines. It is important to complete before orientation as it can impact course registration. For example, a lot of the registration will take place in Workday. So if your student has not completed the onboarding in that system, then they won't be able to register. There'll just be some complications. At the bottom of this slide and the next, you'll see a link to our website where you can read more about each item. And it will direct you to the proper page for where your student can get information on how to complete something. Moving past this slide again, just again, more items that your student needs to complete, everything from submitting their final transcripts to any kind of AP scores. I know after responding to a few parents that the AP scores don't necessarily come out till after mid-July. So just get those in as soon as possible, as it will help students get into the right courses during their registration period. So after summer, as I mentioned at the beginning of this webinar, I am your primary point of contact for all things that you need. While I might not have all the answers, I do have a great baseline understanding of Santa Clara and what we offer and who to point you to based on whatever you need. FERPA does prevent us from disclosing a lot of personal and specific details about your student. But anything general, we should be able to advise you there. So these are some other alternative platforms to which we can communicate with you all. The first and foremost is the Bronco Family Network. This is a space where I post daily, and then the system will send you a newsletter of the top 5 most recent posts based on the frequency you want. So let's say someone is interested in athletics and someone isn't. The person who isn't won't get any information on that, and vice versa. I post daily, and so if you really want to be involved and know what's going on, it's something you can check regularly. And if that's not your speed and you want your student to have that independence that we are helping them get towards, then I think the newsletter will suffice. But again, up to you all. We are also on Instagram. We use this place to, promote weekly events. We have anywhere between 10 and 20 events a week for students to participate in. And this is just a platform that we've learned that most parents use to learn about these events and encourage their students to go. We also do fun things like campus life pictures, pictures from events themselves, and then we'll give general timely updates as they come in, anything from saying, hey, it's time to register for courses. Has your student prepared to, it's time for room selection for the following year. Is your student prepared to do that? Do they have their groups together and whatnot? So 2 great ways to stay connected. Because we love your involvement and we appreciate how you can help us encourage your students to do things. We also use our SCU website. There is a dedicated page for you to get all the links to different campus resources, information and promotionals about our upcoming parent and family events, the all-important academic calendar where you can start scheduling holiday breaks, flight schedules, things like that, and other important dates and deadlines coming up for your student to be aware of. They are communicated with on a regular basis from different departments, so it's important that they are checking their Gmail regularly. But from my departments, and we'll always keep you all in the loop in one of the previously mentioned communication channels. And then lastly, email and phone. That contact information will be posted at the end of this presentation, but I am always available to answer any questions that you might have. It may take me a little longer because I am a department of 1 plus a student, but we will do our best to assist you with what you need. And again, I mentioned earlier about FERPA regulations, but if we can keep things general, or I can generalize things for y'all, that would be the best way to handle that. I believe we left a lot of time for questions because answering your questions is of the utmost importance to us. But we did also want to mention that if you have any orientation related questions throughout the summer, the orientation email and phone number are your best bets, as multiple people manage those channels. But then throughout the academic year, again, that is my general contact information, and then my team where we can answer any questions you might have. So I'm going to stop talking and stop sharing screen so that we can hear from all of you. So Liv will look through the chat and kind of flag anything that we should answer live that might apply to the broad audience. But I do want to cover a couple things that were mentioned in our registration. Someone had asked if there is security on campus 24/7. The answer is yes. We have a campus safety services team who work 24/7, 365. So there's always someone on site to support your students in anything that they may need after hours. There is a direct contact number. I believe it's on the website if you just search Campus Safety Services. I know they'll be presenting at both the in-person orientation and a upcoming webinar. And the director of that department generally gives out his cell phone number, so he's always accessible to you all. Someone had asked about the health insurance waiver and if their student is in the September 19th session, should they be worried about missing the September 27th deadline? The answer is no. Once your student is registered for those 6 units, the waiver will be accessible 3 to 4 days after that. So you should have that in a good amount of time to fill out the waiver. It should be pretty straightforward. Portable AC unit with venting tube, is it allowed in the AC? Unfortunately, due to the amount of power that it needs to get, or it needs to operate, they are not allowed in the space. I think those were the major ones. All opportunities to meet departments on campus, such as financial aid, the Office of Accessible Education, and the like will be during the resource fair on day one. So that is a great opportunity to meet a lot of the resources and services that we provide on campus. Does Swig have AC? I just saw that one pop up. I don't think so. Yes, siblings can attend orientation. There is an associated fee if they're over 12. But please email us at orientation@scu.edu and we can get that all squared away for everyone. But I will turn it to Liv to see which one she wants us to answer. If anyone wants to come off mute to ask a question while we've filtered through all of these text ones, please feel free to do so. You should be able to unmute yourselves now.
Hi, this is Amy. I joined a bit late. I wasn't sure if this question was already addressed, but my son is in September 19th orientation, and I wasn't sure like when he can register for classes. Apparently, you can't register for classes until you've done your orientation. So will he have like the available classes for him after the orientation?
Andres, do you want to take that? Sorry, my computer's freaking out.
Yeah, that's a great question. I would definitely say that, sorry, I would definitely say that there are going to be plenty of classes and spaces that are set aside for all students. So recognizing that while a majority of our first year students will be registering in July, there will be seats available for folks that are needing to wait until the end of September in order to register for their sessions. So definitely nothing to be worried about there. We also want to mention that depending on if your student's in a special program or their major, they might also be pre-enrolled in some classes prior to attending orientation. So that also makes sure that they're already coming to orientation with some units pre-registered, but that obviously isn't the case for everyone. And then lastly that I want to mention too is just to encourage your student to be flexible. It's their first quarter schedule that they're getting some additional support registering for, but we might encourage your student to sign up for an earlier class than maybe that they would prefer or anticipate. But we also know that that's just part of the collegiate experience of getting to experience those things that maybe many of you all that have attended college can recognize. But I think as well, for any students that need to make any changes for whatever reason during the first week of fall quarter, your student can go in and make changes to their schedule as other students are dropping and adding classes during the start of fall quarter. So at that time, your student can modify their schedule. And then they could also follow up with an academic advisor if for whatever reason they need additional support during that time.
Great, thank you.
And we're trying to get through all of the chat between us, so we're getting there. I know there's been a lot of questions about what to bring for orientation and if we'll be supplying any bed sheets, comforter, anything like that. So we can put it in the chat of what the student needs to bring. So they do need to bring clothing for 2 days, toiletries, and their own bedding, because we're just supplied just with the residence hall. So there aren't any sheets or anything like that that are included in the room, which also means they need to bring a towel. We also advise a water bottle since it will be hot in July and September, a laptop or tablet that they can use both for day one and day two for registering for classes, but also taking notes, anything like that, or if they need to email any departments or advisors while they're here, and then an ID.
Hi, I was just wondering if you guys if there's anywhere to check if our major requires calculus. Like I saw that we should be registering for a calculus readiness exam. I was just wondering where we would be able to find out if we needed calculus.
I will drop a academic checklist into the chat momentarily as soon as I'm done responding. But you can, from this checklist, you can kind of select what major that your student will be working towards, and in that checklist will outline whether you need a calculus class. It will be a type of math requirement. So let me drop that link in the checklist, and please ask a follow-up question if you have one.
Thank you so much.
I also want to mention that I dropped a informative video in the chat too. So that link will take you to a YouTube video that actually breaks down the requirements for if you qualify to need to take the calculus readiness exam. So it will address any of your questions on if it applies to you, and if it does, how you can make sure to complete the assessment before you arrive to orientation.
Thank you. I have a quick question. What if your student is undeclared?
And also, we can definitely stay behind to answer any questions, things like that. So if you don't have any questions, you can leave the webinar a little bit sooner. We'll stay behind to try to catch up on some of these ones in the chat, but also feel free to raise your hand in case we haven't gotten yet to your question. You can feel free to unmute and ask it as well. But just in case anyone, I know it's for some of us is lunchtime, for some of us it's evening, depending on where you are, or it could be early morning. So just want to be mindful of your time as well. So I will stop recording and then we'll stay behind to finish answering the questions in the chat, or if anyone wants to unmute and have that conversation. We'll be here. So thank you, everyone. If anyone's exiting out, thanks for attending our webinar.
I will